Many people search for change by looking for new methods, new goals, and new motivations, yet few realize that true transformation requires looking inward, not outward. We live in a world that is constantly pushing us to be faster, to do more, to accumulate more, and to keep our minds occupied with endless noise. But there is one thing often overlooked that only a few truly choose to do, and it is this choice that creates a quiet strength and unshakable clarity within. This one thing is to pause, to observe, and to understand yourself deeply before you act. To stop running without knowing why you are running. To stop seeking without understanding what it is you are truly seeking. It is to cultivate presence in each breath, to bring your mind back to this moment again and again, and to build the discipline to look within, even when it feels uncomfortable. Most people continue to live on the surface, driven by habits, desires, and fears that they do not question. But the few who choose to observe their thoughts, to sit with their emotions without being consumed by them, and to bring awareness into every action, discover a freedom that cannot be found in the external world. They begin to live with intention, with clarity, and with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing themselves. It is not an easy path. It requires consistency, patience, and a willingness to let go of distractions that do not serve your growth. But those who choose this path discover that the real change they are looking for begins the moment they decide to take responsibility for their inner state, to train the mind, and to live with awareness in each moment. True change begins with looking inward, not outward. Many people believe that if they can just change their environment, change their job, change the people around them, or change their circumstances, they will find the peace and fulfillment they are seeking. They keep adjusting the outer layers of their lives, hoping that this will bring an inner shift. Yet they find that even after making these external changes, the same dissatisfaction returns, the same restlessness arises, and the same patterns continue to repeat. This is because the root of our experience is not what happens outside of us, but how we relate to what happens. The mind is the lens through which we experience every moment. And if the lens is clouded by fear, desire, and constant comparison, then even the most beautiful circumstances cannot bring us lasting peace. When we look inward, we begin to see how much of our suffering is created not by external situations, but by our resistance, our expectations, and the stories we tell ourselves. Looking inward is an act of courage because it requires us to face the parts of ourselves we often try to avoid. We may discover fear, insecurity, anger, or sadness within us, and it is easier to distract ourselves by focusing on external goals than to sit quietly and observe what is truly there. Yet it is only through this honest observation that we can begin to understand ourselves, and with this understanding, true change becomes possible when we begin to look inward We start by observing our thoughts without judgment. We notice how quickly the mind jumps from one concern to another, how easily it gets caught in regret about the past or worry about the future. We notice the constant commentary the mind creates, labeling every experience as good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. Through this observation, we learn to see the mind's activity without becoming entangled in it. This practice of observing without reacting creates a space within us, a space where clarity can arise. We begin to see which thoughts are helpful and which are simply habits of negativity and fear. We see how often we resist what is happening, creating unnecessary tension within ourselves. We learn to let these thoughts and reactions pass, like clouds moving through the sky, without holding onto them or allowing them to control our actions. Looking inward also means observing our emotional landscape. Many people suppress their emotions or react impulsively to them without truly understanding what lies beneath. By turning inward, we learn to feel our emotions fully, allowing them to arise and pass without resistance. We discover that emotions, like thoughts, are temporary visitors, and we do not need to fear them or act out of them. We can simply witness them with awareness, allowing them to teach us about our deeper patterns and needs. True change requires responsibility. It is easy to blame others or circumstances for our dissatisfaction. But when we look inward, we take ownership of our experience. We recognize that while we cannot always control what happens around us, we can choose how we respond. We can choose to cultivate patience instead of frustration, acceptance instead of resistance, and clarity instead of confusion. This shift in perspective is the beginning of transformation. The journey inward is not about becoming someone else, but about understanding who we truly are beneath the layers of conditioning and habit. It is about recognizing the patterns that no longer serve us and gently letting them go. It is about discovering the quiet strength and stability that come from living in alignment with our true nature rather than being driven by the noise of the external world. When we commit to looking inward, even for a few moments each day, we begin to cultivate a relationship with ourselves that is rooted in honesty and compassion. We learn to trust ourselves and to find guidance from within, rather than constantly seeking validation from outside sources. This inner trust becomes a foundation for all our actions, allowing us to move through life with clarity and purpose, regardless of the circumstances we face. Awareness of your thoughts is the foundation of inner freedom. Many people live each day without noticing the constant flow of thoughts passing through their minds, unaware of how these thoughts shape their emotions, decisions, and the quality of their lives. Without awareness, we become prisoners of our own thinking, reacting automatically to every thought as if it were true, and allowing our minds to lead us into cycles of fear, regret, anger, and desire that cloud our clarity and disturb our peace. To cultivate awareness of your thoughts is to begin to observe the mind with calm curiosity, like watching the flow of a river without jumping into it. It is to notice when thoughts arise, to see their patterns, to recognize how quickly the mind labels, judges, and creates stories around every experience. This awareness does not mean you stop thinking, nor does it mean you fight against your thoughts. It means you learn to see them for what they are: temporary movements in the mind, not necessarily the truth, and not necessarily requiring a reaction. Through this practice, you begin to understand the nature of your mind. You notice how often it pulls you into the past, replaying memories and regrets, or pushes you into the future, creating worries and expectations. You see how it compares you with others, creating feelings of inadequacy or superiority. You see how it creates desires for things you do not truly need, leading to endless seeking and dissatisfaction. By seeing these patterns clearly, you create space between the thought and your reaction, allowing you to choose your response rather than acting out of habit. This awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. The objects in the room were always there, but without light, you could not see them clearly, and you might trip over them repeatedly. When you develop awareness of your thoughts, you begin to see the obstacles and patterns within yourself that have been creating unnecessary suffering. You begin to understand the causes of your restlessness and anxiety. And with this understanding, you can begin to let go of the thoughts that do not serve your peace. Awareness of your thoughts also helps you to live in the present moment. Many people find it difficult to be fully present because their minds are constantly occupied, dragging their attention away from what is happening right now. By noticing when your mind has wandered and gently bringing it back to the present, you train yourself to remain grounded in the reality of this moment. This presence allows you to experience life more fully, to listen more deeply, and to act with greater clarity and intention. This practice requires patience and consistency. The mind has been conditioned over many years to follow certain patterns, and it will take time to develop the habit of observing without reacting. At first, you may notice that your mind is very busy, that thoughts arise continuously, and that you are easily distracted. Do not let this discourage you. Each time you notice a thought and return to awareness, you are strengthening your ability to remain present and free. Through the cultivation of thought awareness, you develop a sense of inner stability. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness in which these thoughts arise and pass. You discover that there is a space within you that is not disturbed by the changing nature of the mind, a space of quiet clarity that remains even when the mind is active. By resting in this space of awareness, you can observe the movements of the mind without being carried away by them. And from this place, you can respond to life with wisdom rather than impulse. This awareness also helps you to develop compassion for yourself. As you see the nature of your thoughts, you begin to understand how your mind has developed certain patterns out of fear, conditioning, and past experiences. You learn to observe these patterns without harsh judgment, allowing yourself to gently let go of what is not needed, while cultivating thoughts and intentions that support your growth and peace. In this way, awareness of your thoughts becomes a path of freedom, leading you to live each day with greater presence, clarity, and a quiet, stable mind. Sitting with discomfort develops quiet strength. In moments of challenge, uncertainty, or emotional heaviness, the mind's first reaction is often to escape, to distract itself, or to push the discomfort away. We seek activities, conversations, or thoughts that takes away from the present feeling, believing that if we avoid it long enough, it will disappear on its own. Yet it is through the act of turning towards discomfort, sitting with it patiently and observing it without resistance, that we cultivate a strength that is steady and quiet within. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is a teacher that shows us where our limitations, fears, and attachments lie. When we avoid discomfort, we avoid the opportunity to grow beyond our current patterns. We remain trapped in cycles of reactivity, unable to expand our capacity to remain stable in the face of challenge. When we sit with discomfort, we train ourselves to remain present, to hold space for ourselves without immediately seeking escape, and to witness our experience with clarity. This practice begins with small moments. When you feel restlessness, sadness, anger, or fear, instead of reaching for distraction, you pause, you breathe. You notice the sensations in your body, the tightness, the heaviness, the energy that moves within you. You observe your thoughts without getting pulled into their stories. You simply sit, breathing with the discomfort, allowing it to be present without trying to change it or push it away. In this space of observation, you begin to see that discomfort, like all experiences, is temporary. It arises, stays for a while, and passes. You realize that you have the capacity to remain with your experience without being overwhelmed by it. You discover that discomfort often intensifies when you resist it, but when you allow it, it softens. This realization builds quiet confidence, as you understand that you do not need to fear your emotions or experiences. You can remain present with them, and in doing so, you become stronger. Sitting with discomfort also helps you to see your reactions clearly. You may notice urges to avoid, blame, or react impulsively. By observing these urges without acting on them, you develop discipline and awareness. You learn to choose your responses with intention rather than reacting automatically from a place of fear or resistance. This ability to remain calm and present, even when discomfort arises, becomes a foundation for your daily actions, allowing to move through challenges with stability. This practice is not about forcing yourself to endure suffering without care. It is about bringing kindness to your experience, allowing yourself to feel what you feel while holding it in the gentle space of your awareness. You become your own support, your own steady presence, no longer relying on external circumstances to determine your inner state. This self-reliance is not cold or detached. It is warm, compassionate, and rooted in trust that you can face what arises within you. Discomfort often points to areas of life where we need to grow. It shows us attachments we hold, expectations we cling to, and fears that limit our actions. By sitting with discomfort, we create space to understand these deeper layers within ourselves. We see the beliefs that drive our reactions, and we can begin to question whether these beliefs are true or helpful. This clarity allows us to gradually release what no longer serves our growth, making space for wisdom and calm strength. Through the consistent practice of sitting with discomfort, we expand our capacity to remain peaceful regardless of what life brings. We no longer seek comfort in every situation, but find comfort in our ability to remain centered in any situation. We realize that discomfort is something to avoid, but something to embrace with awareness, allowing it to shape us into individuals who can navigate the complexities of life with patience and grace. In this way, discomfort becomes a doorway to quiet strength, a strength that does not depend on external circumstances, but arises from the stability and presence we cultivate within ourselves through our willingness to stay, to observe, and to learn from every moment that life presents. ChatGPT said, "Discipline in presence transforms daily actions." Many people move through their days on autopilot, completing tasks, having conversations, and making decisions without true awareness of what they are doing or why they are doing it. The mind is often occupied with distractions, worries, or plans, pulling attention away from the simplicity of the present moment. This lack of presence not only affects the quality of our actions, but also creates a sense of disconnection within, leaving us feeling restless and unfulfilled despite being busy. To live with discipline in presence is to commit to bringing your full attention to each action, no matter how small it may seem. It is to train the mind to remain where the body is, allowing you to experience each moment fully rather than rushing towards the next. This discipline is not rigid or forced. It is a gentle commitment to live consciously, understanding that every action, when done with presence, becomes an opportunity for growth and inner alignment. When you practice presence, even the most ordinary actions can become moments of meditation. Walking is no longer just a way to move from one place to another, but becomes an opportunity to feel the connection between your body and the ground, and to notice the breath, and to observe the environment with awareness. Eating becomes a practice of gratitude and mindfulness, allowing you to truly taste your food and nourish your body with intention. Conversations become opportunities to listen deeply, to understand rather than simply to respond.